Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, good afternoon, konnichiwa, mangadang hapon, buenas tardes, and good day to everyone. Dr. Hajah Zainab Muhammad Noor, Director, Department of International Affairs, University Institute Technology Mara, Global University Malaysia, Mr. Victor Sujat Miko, Inbound Coordinator, Toyo University Japan, Associate Professor Dr. Nur Fariza Muhammad Noor, Chairperson, Center for Research in Language and Linguistics, Faculty, Science, Socials and Humanities, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, Associate Professor Hiroki Nomoto, School of Language and Culture Studies, Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, Japan, Associate Professor Dr. Abdul Latif Ahmad, Director of International Relations Center, UKM Global University Kebangsaan Malaysia, Mr. Cornelius Anwar Abdullah McPhee, Director UNIZA International Center, University Sultan Zana Abidin Terengganu. Honorable guests and participants who are here with us today. Welcome to UKM Global webinar series with the theme Embracing Language and Culture Through Internationalization, organized by International Relations Center, UKM Global University Kebangsaan Malaysia, supported by Toshiba International Foundation. My name is Hafiz Rasul Muhammad from International Relations Center, UKM Global. I'm your MC for today's webinar. Our honorable guest. This webinar aims at exploring how language and culture-based programs are being offered in universities in Japan and Malaysia. Discussions will focus on the nature of programs and activities, the intercultural component of the programs, the focus and the aims of the programs, and the success stories or challenges faced in organizing the programs. One of the key emphases of internationalization is about bringing students from various cultures together in their journeys towards acquiring a better future and being respectful global citizens. More international higher education institutions are introducing and conducting programs that highlight the importance of culture and language in their exchange and mobility programs. Dear participants, though English is known to be universal language, many foreign modern languages are being offered, as well as to embrace the diversity of the world. Well, this afternoon, we are fortunate through this UKM Global webinar series, Embracing Language and Culture Through Internationalization. We have the opportunity to listen to our distinguished panelists who are competent in the field of education to share their valuable knowledge with all of us. Okay, I trust everyone is so excited right now and ready. Without further ado, let us begin this webinar. Please allow me to welcome and introduce our moderator. Today's webinar, we would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Cornelius Anwar Abdullah McPhee, or fondly known as Mr. Anwar McPhee. Mr. Anwar McPhee was born in Scotland and raised in Canada. He began teaching English in Malaysia in 1991 at College Agama Sultan Zainal Abidin. After having completed his degree in philosophy and political science at Carleton University, Ottawa, Kuza is now known as University Sultan Zainal Abidin. Yeah, formerly UNIZA was known as Kuza. Located in Kuala Terengganu, Anwar teaches at the Center of Foundation Studies and is also the director of the International Center, UNIZA. In addition to teaching, his work in the community concentrates on environmental issues. Over the past 20 years, he has served as both the Vice Chairman and Secretary of the Malaysian Nature Society, Persatuan Pecinta Alam Malaysia, Terengganu branch. He works closely with international and local environmental agencies and NGOs on issues related to conservation and sustainability in Terengganu. He has a passion for bird watching and has led international groups on birding trips throughout Terengganu and regularly conducts workshops on bird watching for schools and university students in the state. In addition to ongoing research on critically endangered species in Terengganu, he has published 2 books on birds titled The Birds of University Sultan Zainal Abidin, 2011, and Birds of Terengganu, Burung-Burung di Negeri Terengganu, 2017. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm virtual applause to our moderator, Mr. Anwar Mekfi. The screen is yours, Mr. Anwar.
Okay, thank you very much, Hafiz. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today with the UKM Global Webinar Series sponsored by Toshiba International, looking at embracing language and culture through internationalization, something we all do at our higher learning institutions. And I want to begin for a minute talking about why I think this is so important and valuable. Every semester with my students, I like to begin with a little bit of sharing. And it's hard, I'll show it to you for 1 second. I talk about this book, Factfulness, that came out a few years ago by Hans Rosling. And it's so interesting because he shows us that people around the world actually misunderstand the world. It's not that they don't know about the world. What they do know is factually incorrect. There is a lot of misunderstanding. And he proposes one way to overcome this misunderstanding is through sports. But we know as educators, we have another way to overcome misunderstandings or to bring people from various backgrounds together, and that's through lots of our mobility programs. And what better way than to discuss today some of the mobility that we do that talks mostly about language and culture. So I'm very pleased to be able to be moderator today, and I'm looking forward very much to hearing from our 4 distinguished panelists. Let me just introduce them briefly. First, we'll have Dr. Hajah Zainab Haji Mohammed Noor. She is currently the Director for the Department of International Affairs at UITM Global at University Technology Mara. She's also a senior lecturer and former dean of the Faculty of Education at University Technology Mara. She lectures on educational assessment and evaluation methodologies in TESOL and topics on curriculum development and management. And as a certified master trainer in OBE for UITM, she has trained over 5,000 lecturers using the 6 OBE SCL training modules for institutions of higher learning in Malaysia. And Dr. Zainab was one of the top 5 finalists in the prestigious National Academic Awards in 2013. And in the same year, she was the recipient for the Best Teaching Award at UITM. Her research has brought her to participate in many international competitions, and she has won the Best Awards and Gold Awards in various international competitions over the years, including in Brussels at the Eureka Innovation Expo in 2010. Our second panelist, Mr. Victor Sujatmiko, is the inbound coordinator at Toyo University in Japan. And Mr. Victor obtained his Bachelor's of Commerce from Chuo University in Tokyo and his MA in Education Management from King's College, London. He was the Senior Admissions Counselor at Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Japan from 2011 to 2016. And his responsibilities there included the management of Ritsumikan Asia Pacific University, Republic of China, Taiwan, staff training and planning of annual recruitment strategies, and analyzing student mobility throughout Asia. From 2007 onwards, he was the Japanese program coordinator and lecturer at Collingham College in London, where he designed Japanese language curriculum for all levels, including GCSE classes, and adopting the appropriate materials. And from 2018 up to 2020, he was the international strategy analyst at University of Tsukuba in Japan, and led a team of 5 for a Japanese government appointed study in Japan for South America project. Very interesting project based in Sao Paulo and Tsukuba. The project included producing grant-related paperwork to allocate budgets from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, which aims to raise the awareness of studying in Japan among South American students. We're very lucky to have him with us. Our next panelist, Associate Professor Dr. Noor Fariza Mohammed Noor, is currently the chair of the Center for Research in Language and Linguistics at the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities at University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And as the chair, Noor Fariza oversees and assists students in mobility programs at the center, in addition to promoting the mobility program to students. Prior to holding the chair, she held the position as editor-in-chief of GEMA, an online journal of language studies, which is a Scopus journal, an international journal in Malaysia, focusing on language, linguistics, and literature. And because of this, she's often invited to conduct workshops and give talks on journal writings and publications, not only in Malaysia, but also throughout the region, including Indonesia and Thailand. Noor Fariza is also a member of the Technical Committee of Malaysian Journals, Malaysian Infometric and Citation Center with the Ministry of Higher Education here. And her areas of research include critical discourse analysis and digital humanities, specifically in the field of social science and arts. She's actively involved in research with colleagues at UKM and also with research partnerships in Indonesia and Thailand. And her current research is in corpus and computational linguistics on climate change, food culture, and communication surveillance of outbreaks. And she's presented at local and international conferences and has been invited as a keynote and plenary speaker at international conferences, both locally and internationally. And also, she's very actively involved in a Women's Entrepreneur Association, which is an NGO association. As a committee member, she ensures that this association works to train hundreds of women entrepreneurs in Malaysia, enhancing digital literacy and their digital business capabilities. And our fourth panelist today is Associate Professor Hiroki Nomoto. He is an Associate Professor of the Malay Language and Linguistics at Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. His area of research includes syntax, semantics, and language resource development in the Malay and Indonesian language. And he has developed 2 important resources, the morphological dictionary Malindomorph and the concordancer Malindocon, both of which are publicly available. So with these 4 excellent panelists, we hope to have wonderful sharing today, and we look forward, after hearing from our panelists, to have a great discussion with questions from all of you that have joined us today. So without any further delay, I would like to pass over to Dr. Haja Zainab to begin our session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anwar, and dear colleagues. Allow me to share my presentation. So once again, thank you very much. Arigato gozaimashite to UKM Global and also the Toshiba International Foundation for organizing such a very important webinar today with regards to language and culture through internationalization. So once again, I'm Dr. Haja Zainab. So I'll be taking you through the activities and the language engagements specifically, and also culture engagements with our partner universities from Japan. But allow me just a quick minute here to tell you a bit about UITM. As you can see from my slide, the slide shows that, that UITM, again, undoubtedly, we are everywhere in Malaysia, and this has helped our partners to actually come and enjoy other campuses rather than being in the city of Kuala Lumpur, but there are many choices for them to choose from. So we are also in 30 other locations, all right? We would like to share with you some of our latest achievements when it comes to the 2021 QS World University Rankings. And I'm sure our partners also will be sharing where they are. So this has helped us to communicate with our partners, and in terms of the different disciplines, the different areas that our partners would like to look at, and probably talk about designing activities together for their students. Recently, we were also involved in what we call the impact rankings, specifically with the sustainable development goals. And this has actually helped us to be more visible with regards to the 17 SDGs. And in fact, some of our programs, and I know from our partners from Japan, have actually offered summer programs, workshops on sustainable development goals for our students. So allow me to run this very quickly. Like I said, currently we have at least about 35 to, if not 39, partners from Japan. And these are all the list of universities. Again, they may be our partners from our Memorandum of Understanding or our Memorandum of Agreement with specific programs. And also, to a certain extent, we have those who have actually come together under our letter of intent, all right? So again, you will see all the different universities, Tokyo University also, and I know we have our partner here, Toyo University, and of course, quite a number of our summer programs with regards to language and culture are from students from NIT, Ube, Kagawa, and also year in, year out, consistently, we've been very strong with Toyo University, and without fail, the students have been coming. And I continue with the slide. So there are more partners here that we actually, we have them as partners, but we would like to engage more in the future with all of our partners. Okay, and having said that, I would like to share with all of you the Departments of International Affairs at UITM Global engagements with Japan. So again, the pre-pandemic and pre-COVID, and also to what we call now the virtual mobility programs. All right, so let me take you through this. And here we go. And the first program that I'd like to share with you, as you can see from the slides there, you can see that, the Toyo University, as I mentioned, the Japan regional, what we call the regional studies, Learn English Abroad summer program. So we've consistently have them. And we're also very fortunate. We have a very steady what we call faculty in the university that is ever ready to actually offer the program that is our Pusat Bahasa, or our Academy of Language Studies at UITM. So in most cases, it will cover English language courses, and of course, to a certain extent, it will expose the students to Malaysian cultures, places, and also heritage. So in this program, like I said, the physical one, and you can see how beautiful they all look in the pictures with donning the Malay costumes, and then within 5 weeks, at the end of 5 weeks, they were able to showcase at least the Zapin dance, and also joget. Always at the very end of any program, there will be a cultural show, and that's done by the students, and it's amazing how they did it within the 5 weeks. All right, so that was really something for us, to very memorable. And of course, we have from Toyo University, the professor, I can't remember his name off the cuff now, but of course, there's always someone that will come at the very end of the program to see the final program or the ending of the program. So again, continuing with them, different groups, of course. So steadily, we've been receiving year in, year out. So in 2019, again, with Toyo University, Japan, again, their Regional Development Studies, RDS as they call it, Learn English Abroad, has brought a group of students. And of course, this is the second cohort. And again, they were accompanied by professors, in this case, Kozu Kajiwasaki, and then sending them off. And then at the end of the 5 weeks, we'll be seeing another professor that comes, to gather, to sit down, to look at their performances, their evaluations. And of course, at the same time, professors will sit down with us and probably talk at our level in terms of the future or some feedback, etc., on how better we can improve the program for the next cohort. So in this program, of course, if we do not take them out of Kuala Lumpur or Putrajaya, all right, and of course, besides Malacca, as you can see from the pictures, so the concentration pretty much will be very much in Selangor, with the Skytrax, the Hulu Langat, the Tandem Hill Resort, whichever is available nearby. So this group actually, as you can see, like I said, of course, the same group, with their Malay costumes. And then another thing was we introduced them to also what we call gamelan, the traditional instruments. And they could actually, at the end of the 5 weeks, perform gamelan. And I think that's just brilliant on how they can actually follow, the beat of our Malaysian songs. Next, we also have what we call the ASEAN International Mobility for Students, AIMS. And here, we know that there are universities from Japan, but specifically Tsukuba University of Japan and other universities has actually involved and put together a program called the 6 Strands ASEAN Global Agenda Education, or TAG, program for international mobility for students. Now, so this program, like I said, at the just, that first quarter, right before the world was declared as, the pandemic, all right, in COVID-19. So we had the group that we here from Tsukuba University. And of course, all our students were actually there at Tsukuba University from other countries because it was an AIMS program. So our students from, of course, the Faculty of Business and Management, 2 of them, Anis and also Abdul Aziz, as you can see in the picture there, and places that they visited. And what happened during the 6-day program, like I said, they were actually exposed to 2 areas of Sustainable Development Goals and Millennium Development Goals. So there were programs of other than language and culture, but of course, together, they had also the experience of Japanese culture and visiting the famous Shinto, Tsukuba Mountains, the lakes, and all the gardens. Yeah, so that was quite, I would say, just in time, right before COVID sets in. Yeah. And of course, like I mentioned, with our partners from UITM and National Institute of Technology and IT UBE, so we conducted an English summer program. And again, it's very much communicative language activities to enhance their English language speaking skills. And also, not to forget that the cultural elements were actually also embedded in the program. So they truly enjoy, the blue mosque in Shah Alam, the pink or the, bricky red mosque in Putrajaya. And of course, like anyone else, they would have the experience of the Malaysian culture, again, through playing traditional games, the national costumes, and the Malay dances. All right, and of course, with NIT, we also engage ourselves in a summer program called Speaking for Better Communication Summer Program with NIT Kagawa College. So look at their faces, their smiles, their activities that they were doing here, some traditional activities, some volunteering, and of course, enjoying Shah Alam in the greater Shah Alam and the city of Kuala Lumpur, and of course Putrajaya. Like I said, those three what we call places that they can visit, and the furthest that we normally would take them that has a very strong cultural elements would be Malacca, right? And besides the students, all right, so we've introduced a program called the International Partner Lecture Series. So we were very fortunate. So this was virtual engagement that we were able to have from NIT UBE College. Professor, here we had Professor Dr. Yoshiro Mitani and professor that delivered a lecture entitled Pattern Recognition, Image Processing. So we started, all right, so we had the students level, and we came up with another idea that we should actually showcase our partners' expertise, and we were glad that Professor Yoshihiro was able to be the first from the many partners that we have to deliver on this, to participate in our International Partner Lecture Series. And we're looking forward next year as to other partners in Japan that could share their expertise with us here. Recently, as we were navigating the challenges of physical mobility, all right? So we were very fortunate that the Ritsumeikan University in Japan sat down with us. This was the initial discussion on our first collaboration, discussing about a program called what we call Language and Culture Tandem program. Now, what do they mean by this? So this was very much something that they said it is going to be student-led, and both sides will decide as to what would be the topics. So it's very much like a bottom-up, all right? So we wanted it to be student-led. So in this case, what happened was the students from UITM taught the English language to the Japanese students, and reciprocally, the Japanese students taught the Japanese language to UITM students, because there are a lot of UITM students taking Japanese as a third language requirement at UITM. So the program, like I mentioned, was held virtually in the second week of April, all the way till June 2021. And that was over and above class time for our students. So that while they were exchanging language skills, the students also learn about the different cultures and of both countries. Okay, and I think this program, what I would like to highlight is that students led and they conducted their own learning. So they determine everything, and we are very happy to note that next year, Ritsumeikan has agreed that we should continue the program and with more students from their side and also UITM. So last but not least.
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
sorry, last one. Okay, good.
Okay,
We're
yes.
on time.
Yeah,
We're on
so
time.
I'm almost there. Thank you, Anwar. So last but not least, we had a program called the Student Leadership and Networking Seminar. This one specifically conducted by our buddies or so-called UIKM Global Ambassadors and the Society of Petroleum Engineers, UIKM student chapter. So the students from the College of Engineering and of course with NIT Ube, Japan. So very interesting. The program went on, yeah, from 4th June onwards, and the number of participants. So here again, we were very surprised that the students stayed in and until the very end of the program. So we know then again at the engineering level students, they were actually teaching in other Japanese and also English. All right. And like I said, here we go to do justice to time. So thank you very much, everyone. We'll be more than happy to take more questions and clarifications during the discussion. Thank you, Anwar.
No, thank you very much. That was very interesting. Very wonderful to actually hear about the breadth of the partnerships, so many institutions that UITM is working with in Japan. And I like the flow, how the programs at the beginning that you showed seem to be Japanese students coming here for language and culture. And then it developed into something very reciprocal, where it seemed to be very balanced both ways, that the UITM students were also taking Japanese lessons and culture, both sides. So very, very interesting. I would like to remind all of the participants today, there is a chat box at the bottom. If you do have questions, you can type them in there, either general questions or for any of our panelists. And with that, we'll go on to our next panelist now, Mr. Victor Sujatmiko, please. We'd like to hear your thoughts on this issue today. So please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Anwar. Yes, it's Victor Sujatmiko, SUGATMIKO. Hi everyone. I'm from Tokyo University in Tokyo, and then today I'm very pleased for the invite as one of the panelists, and I'm going to share my presentation. So I literally created this presentation last night, and then I was not sure about what kind of content that I should deliver, but then I read through the synopsis, and then I picked two highlights for this session. The first one is the importance of culture and language in the exchange and mobility programs, and then the second one, how language and culture-based programs are being offered in universities in Japan. So therefore, I made this presentation based on our student exchange inbound program from outside Japan into Tokyo University cases. But first, let me see how the importance of culture and language in the exchange and mobility program. From the research point of view, I'm going to make this very prompt. I know there are many experts here, but I quoted one of my favorite lecturers, Jane, Professor Jane Knight, the University of Toronto. She declared that internationalization is a process of integrating international, intercultural, and global dimension into goals, primary functions, and delivery of higher education at the institutional and national levels. So this is literally the magic words that I've been using so far. That the exchange and mobility indeed is very important for us, to deliver the internationalization in the higher education. And then I picked some data from the university I'm currently working at. And then, as you can see, the exchange program inbound data from Tokyo University back in 2017, we only had 50 exchange students. And then with approximately 150 classes in English on top of the Japanese language and culture NEST programs. So that's quite, it's not that many. But then within 2 years, in 2019, the number tripled. And we had 154 exchange students, and then we offered 264 classes in English. That's something that it's an accomplishment, it's a great accomplishment. And then currently, our office has been receiving exchange students more than 200. And then, during the COVID, we don't know yet, how many classes that we're going to deliver, how are we going to deliver it. But then again, in here, what I'm trying to say is that there is a demand in inbound exchange programs. And that's how, like, our university sees that there is the importance of inbound programs. So that's why we expanded the classes and then the numbers for inbound student. But again, like, let's see, how about in fact, like the reality, like, in the field. So the importance from exchange and mobility programs from university's point of view. I wrote this because it's just purely based on my experience. I've been working in 3 different Japanese universities, and then all of them, they put effort in internationalization in higher education within the country. And then I could classify the importance of the exchange mobility program from university point of view. There are 3. So the first one is the part of the university internationalization strategy itself. So the university came up with the strategy to internationalize the university, and then they invite inbound students to come over to the campus, and then they would like to diversify the campus itself, diversify the body of students in the campus. And then by doing so, they'll be able to educate the students to be responsible global citizens. And then there is a bonus when they're doing it. What's the bonus? It's they can improve the university ranking. This is a very debatable element, university ranking. Like, there's so many things, people say this and that, many pros and cons, but I would like to put that aside for now. University ranking. So, like, for example, if you have many international students in your campus, it could be a positive outcome because you could add on the international element to the university ranking, and then you can position yourself, the university, better in the university league. And this has a very big impact for the second one that I wrote here: marketing purposes and additional income. So I used to travel for recruiting students for full-time degree students throughout Asia. And then every time I talk to students, to the parents, they don't know about Japanese university, and they would ask, like, is this university good? And then what we come up, what we like, how we explain that the university is good is by showing them, oh, look at us, like, we are ranked here or there. From this magazine, from that magazine, and then that works. It works. So, like, it's one of the best indicator when it comes to, like, marketing purposes for university. And then there's another bonus again from the managerial side. If you do, like, an exchange and mobility programs, is additional income. Why I say it's additional income? For example, the American university, the American students who wish to come to Japan, if they do not have exchange agreement between the universities in the US and here, they usually can pay up to $20,000 per semester. So that's a lot of money. So if a university, they take care of the inbound program, and then they could expand the program itself, it could be an additional income. So that's from the management point of view. And then the third one I wrote here, the importance of exchange and mobility program, is from the government point of view. It's basically how the university responds to the government policy. So I'm pretty sure, like, there are many Japanese universities attending here, but Japanese government been telling the universities, oh, hey, look, you have to internationalize your university. You have to get in more international students. And then they create so many policies. And then the universities respond to them, to the government, by saying, hey, look, like, we receive, like, many exchange students, and then it seems that, we are quite internationalized. So that's also, like the reason why exchange and mobility programs is important. And plus, another bonus is it could be another materials when you write a grant paper to allocate any budget for university. So these are 3 importance from a university point of view why exchange and mobility programs are important. And then I would like to go to the students' point of view then. Why it's important? Well, this is like very obvious. It's a culture and language exposure that the home and exchange students can experience. So it's a win-win solution. So the Malaysian students come to Japan, the Japanese students can learn about Malaysian culture, and then the other way around. It's literally like the genuine objective of internationalization in higher education. That's why it's very important. And then the fact that all of us here, I'm here, like, and I'm from Indonesia, and then I'm working in a university in Tokyo. I'm talking to someone, to the audience of University of Bahasa Malaysia. It's the result of the exchange and mobility programs. And I would like to continue my presentation by explaining like how to a university, how we contribute to this exchange and mobility programs. So I could classify the programs into two. So the first one is Japanese language and culture. We call it NES. And the second one is academic courses taught in English from 10 faculties. Oh, by the way, this is our beautiful campus. You can see Mount Fuji from here. If you go to the 8th floor, it is very beautiful. And then the first one is Japanese language and culture, NES. I personally like the name of Japanese language and culture because I believe that language is part of the culture. It's inseparable. It's a one thing. And then the goal of this, of the courses is basically to help the exchange students to increase their proficiency to a level that allows them to pursue their academic interests and enjoy campus life to the fullest. So by the end of the programs, we expect the students to be able to meet the needs of daily life by communicating exclusively in Japanese. So for those of you who have never been to Japan, even in Tokyo, even though like Tokyo is like one of the most international cities in the world, it's not everyone here can speak English. It's a very challenging. And then that's why, like, when the exchange students come to our campus, we would like them to study Japanese and then practice, Japanese with their peers outside the campus. And then further, we also, expect the students to be able to gather, convey, and discuss information about recent events to get up to the next level related to their, academic disciplines in Japanese, using academic vocabulary specific to their fields. So this is the goals of our Japanese language and culture. We call it NES. And this is, one of the pictures that, we took. They brought Japanese calligraphy in one of our classes. And then the second one, we have academic courses taught in English from 10 faculties. And then I'm going to explain how this works in the next slide. But our students can expect to be able to further develop understanding in the field which the students are studying in the home university. So far, I would like to say yes. The exchange programs and then mobility programs is something that is essential if you would like to internationalize the university. And then the second highlight that I took from the synopsis is how language and culture-based programs are being offered in university. So I'm going to take the case in our university. So as I mentioned before, we have NES, Japanese language and culture, and then we created this as a package. So we design, we create it, we sell, and we deliver it as a package. So it consists of so many programs from grammar, conversation, and then it consists of like every level it is basically fit for every Japanese learners. And then the second one is the academic classes at Toyo. This one is the challenging. I know, like, you guys want to hear about what was the challenge, what are the challenges when we offer the programs to the exchange students. The academic classes at Toyo, they were entirely taught in Japanese. So Toyo University, used to deliver all the programs in Japanese, but because, like, we're trying to keep up with internationalization. That's why the International Affairs Office is the office that I'm currently working at. We act as a hub So we basically request all the faculties in our university. There are so many. So like we're a massive university. We have like many disciplines, and then we basically go to their doors and we knock their doors, like knock knock. Hi, we're coming from International Affairs Office. Do you have any programs that you can deliver in English for our exchange students? Why we're doing so? Because I wrote it here, because every faculty has different capacities, capabilities, and even values. Not every faculty has same goal. I mean, you know, like some of them, they're busy doing research in some fields. Some of them, they're like, oh, like, you know, we have too much on our plate. We could not cope with the, you know, with your plan to do this. So it's basically like, you know, we're asking all the faculties, like we gather all the information, we list up all the classes every single semester, and then we make it as, you know, as a package. And then we deliver it to our 224 partner institutions in 37 countries and regions, including UKM, and then and then to our other partner universities. And we're telling them, hey, listen, like, you know, we have this Japanese language and culture, yes, and also academic classes that we have. Please pass this information on to your students, and then they can study at your university. So this how we manage, but in reality, like, you know, it's more complicated than this. It's very bureaucratic. It's Japanese universities. It's very bureaucratic, but I'm trying to, you know, make it really simple to understand. And then first is Japanese language, 2 is academic classes, and then on top of it, we have off-campus learning, because we believe that it's really important, and then we do not want our students to only study inside the classroom, but also outside. So for example, I just gave, like, you know, some examples here. So we have language exchange program, buddy program, and then we have English community zone for exchange students to learn Japanese, and then the other way around. And then we have to International Student Association. It's just basically asking them to hang out with their peers, the Japanese students in our university. And then so our Japanese students can also hang out with them and then study English, Chinese, Bahasa, and then whatever, you know, like culture, and then and then exchange values as well. And then the last one is we are currently building an international dormitory exclusively for exchange students. I'm sorry, not exclusively, but, like, you know, we're going to allocate half of this exchange student dormitory for exchange students. We can allocate up to 300 students, and then we will come up again, like, with the educational plan inside the dormitory to make the best out of the exchange students at the university. Great. So in a nutshell, so I think I did answer the goals of this webinar. I hope that you learned the importance of offering language and culture-based program for internationalization and developing future. And then I also do hope that you get a little bit stories from you know, Japanese University in delivering language and culture-based program. Thank you for listening. ご清聴ありがとうございました。Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Victor. That was very interesting, and I especially liked when you relate to the faculty, that one of your jobs is to encourage the faculty to pick up on internationalization. That it's not something that just happens naturally. Even though we know students are very interested in these programs, it's a lot of work to encourage the institution to take it on, and you made that very clear and showed us lots of the very interesting programs at Toyo University, the opportunities. So thank you. We'd like to go on to our third panelist now, Associate Professor Dr. Fariza. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much to Mr. Anwar. Okay, and greetings from Malaysia, and also good afternoon to the panelists, to all the audience. Thank you very much to UKM Global and Toshiba International Foundation for organizing this webinar. Right, so looking at the focus of the webinar today, embracing language and culture through internationalization. So what, being a linguist, I would like to start with the importance of language and culture. And as you can see here, what I have on the screen is a quote looking at how important language is as a tool, which is very much used to explore, to experience culture, not only our own culture, but also others' culture. So it's very important to be able to have the added advantage of having a foreign language, particularly so with this internationalization and globalization in education. Which brings me to my next slide, which is internationalization, globalization, and culture. We all agree that universities, higher learning institutions all over the world now, for the sake of internationalization, we are very much involved, universities are very much involved in student mobility, students exchanges program, international research collaboration, distance learning, we can see that the landscape of internationalized higher education is rapidly evolving. And for graduates, who have this added advantage of having a foreign language, they also have the added advantage of knowing about other cultures, and that gives them, I would say, the advantage of getting job in international companies. And in fact, I would like to take a quote from Outlaw et al. 1997, the purpose of internationalization is to produce graduates who are capable of solving problems in a variety of locations with cultural and environmental sensitivity, which is very much related to the focus of our webinar today. And with regards to language and culture, with the courses that we offer at the center, we place an importance in developing students' intercultural communicative competence, which actually enable the students to rethink previously held views or stereotypes about other cultures. It also made them think about their own cultural assumptions and values. They learn about other cultures and they see the world from other people's perspectives. What I would like to do today is actually to share the success story, the mobility program that our students have been involved in now and will be involved at UKM, specifically the Center for Research in Language and Linguistics. We offer 9 foreign languages at the center. Arabic, we have Turkish, Mandarin, Thai, okay, and then we have Japanese, Korean, French, German, and also Spanish. And we organize a lot of cultural events and cultural activities. And the students, we let the students be involved in all these cultural events. And when we have inbound students from our partners, from the mobility, these students take part in all our cultural activities and cultural events. And in our foreign language courses, we believe it's not just about developing the language proficiency in the language, but also very much culture, which is inductively taught. Simple things, for example, greetings in different languages. If you greet someone wrongly, you can actually insult the person. So therefore, we place a lot of importance in understanding culture as well as language. For our students, the inbound mobility students, just like UITM, we also have buddy activities, okay? We have cultural activities. Unfortunately, I can't get hold of any pictures. The technician couldn't find the pictures, with MCO, it's like everyone, when it's working from home, they think it's all working from home and they don't seem to know where things are. So unfortunately, I can't share all the photos that we have about the cultural activities and events that we had organized at the center. And I would like to share, some of the success stories that we had. We are very much, I would say our partner in terms of this mobility is very much Korea and Japan. And we have at the Center for Language and Linguistics, we have King Sejong Institute, okay? And there are 213 King Sejong Institute across 76 different countries. And the focus of King Sejong Institute is actually on teaching Korean language and culture. But the activities which the Institute has been organizing, particularly so, the one that I would like to highlight is TOPIC, which is the test of proficiency in Korea. It's being held twice a year, and the recent one that we had, the 78th TOPIC, was held in October. King Sejong Institute, okay, the director also worked closely with the Ministry of Education, and there are schools in Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, and Putrajaya that teaches Korean language. And recently we had this Korean language camp, which was organized in October 2021 among students in schools that teaches Korean language. We had to do it online due to the pandemic, but they showcase various types of language activities, games, drama online, very short speeches, and others. And in fact, on 11th December, which is this Saturday, King Sejong Institute will be organizing the Korean speech contest, the 16th Korean speech contest. And there are 26 finalists, and we have 7 students from UKM. So this Korean speech contest is open to all students in higher learning institutions in Malaysia. And the focus is on enhancing Malaysian students' knowledge about Korean language and culture from the Malaysian perspectives. Again, focusing on how you can be sensitive about other people's culture when you know the language. And one of our partner university is Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. Yeah, as I said, we work closely with our partner universities in Japan. And we not only have mobility for students, but we also have a lecturer. We have one of our Japanese language teacher, Ms. Azno Aisha, who was appointed as visiting lecturer at TUFS for a year from April 2017 to March 2018. And she also managed to get a grant from Sumitomo, and she presented her research activities at TUFS, and she also managed to obtain a grant from TUFS. In addition to that, we also work closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan, and Ms. Azno Aisha was appointed as the, I would say, the expert in Malay language and also the resource person by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan. For Japanese embassy, we have 36 students who have been selected for this Genesis. And we received book donation, recognition from Japan Embassy. We received book donation from the wife of the Prime Minister of Japan, which received wide coverage in Japanese newspaper. And we have our Japanese language teacher, Ms. Azno Aisha, who was appointed as the language expert and she administered the Malay language competency to Japanese diplomat, and she has been appointed from 2019 to 2022. As for students' mobility, we have a close working relationship with regards to Tokyo University of Foreign Studies beginning in 2017 until the recent one. We're going to have 2 students for this mobility program to TUFS in 2022, next year, 2 students from the center. Also with Sophia University, we had 2 students who were selected for the AIMS, Asian International Mobility for Students. They were there for 1 semester. We had 1 student in 2016, and we will be having another student in 2022 from UKM who will be going to Sophia University. Also with Gifu University, again, mobility program began in 2017. For next year, we don't have any students. And the students usually stay there for throughout the summer, okay, for 1 month, attending the summer school. And we also had students again at Ishikawa Prefecture. They were there for 1 month homestay program. In 2017 and 2018, we managed to send 5 students in total, and they enjoyed their stay very much, as can be seen from these pictures when the students were in Japan, in Ishikawa Prefecture. And in addition to Japan, we also have collaboration. Okay, our partner Ablaikan World Language International University in Almaty, Kazakhstan. So we had students, outbound students from the center who went to Almaty, Kazakhstan. So as you can see, they enjoyed themselves very much. We also had students who went to Sweden and also to Mexico. Yeah. Okay, I also like to share with you, okay, for 2021-2022, we already have 2 students, and 2 students will be joining, okay, the other students at Tokyo University of Foreign Studies for 2 semesters, Aju University, also 2 students, Chonnam in Korea and Kansai University for the summer school. So as you can see, the students' stint for mobility range from, some of them actually stayed there for more than 1 semester, for 2 semesters, some for the short summer school program. And we, not just with Japan and Korea, we also have students at the National University of Singapore. And recently, we're very proud to have 1 student who will be going to Kent State University. He managed to get a full sponsorship from the United States Department of State under the Global U-Grad USA program. So he will be going to USA in January next year. We had 1 student who just came back from Mexico a few months ago, and the student was there for 4 months. For now we have, okay, when we ask the students, yeah, why do you actually want to, why are you interested in the mobility program? All of them say they want to learn about the cultures and norms in other countries. They want to taste the food, they want to experience the food, the weather, they want to experience the 4 seasons, yeah, and also language. We asked them, okay, could you describe yourself after all this, you know, experience? They said they become more adventurous, they're more open, they're warm, more warm, confident, and they improve their foreign language skill. And I actually totally agree with all this. In fact, I would like to share my experience. When I was 16 years old, I had the opportunity to go on a students exchange program to Perth, Australia. I was sent by I'm from Penang. I was sent by the Penang state. I actually agree with the student that they become more confident, because when after the 1 month stay, homestay, I found that I'm more confident, I'm more open, I see the world from a different perspective, new perspective. And I think I kind of came out from my shell and I looked at people differently. So I would like to say that with the mobility program that we have, students outbound mobility program, they learned a lot, particularly so the culture of the country, and those students who had taken up Japanese, Korean, Thai, French, yeah, they said that they become more proficient in the language. And I would like to also share some of the impact of this mobility program. We have students who are going to pursue their graduate study in Japan. at MA level. We have one student who managed to get a scholarship. She's going to pursue her study at PhD level, and a few who have obtained jobs in Japan. And we have students who work as engineer, Sony Malaysia, comic translator for this Japanese comic. Those students who work in Japanese company, and also a student who work as a cultural officer at the Japan Foundation. In terms of the challenges, okay, students, when they sign up for these foreign language courses, I think it's the same with all students. What they want to have is to get A grade. Yeah, so what they do is they only sign up for the first level. So what we do is we encourage students to continue until the advanced level, for them to get the certificate. And we kind of dangle the carrot and tell them that if you manage to get the certificate, if you're very proficient in the language, the opportunity for you to join the mobility program is, you have more chances, is much better. The other challenge that we have is to get students to be mentally prepared. Luckily, we have our foreign language teachers. As I said, we offer 9 foreign languages at the center. So these foreign language teachers, they were educated abroad, okay, in the country, the respective country. So we send the students to these foreign language teachers, and the teachers talk to them to get them mentally prepared. And also to kind of build a positive attitude, to help them develop positive attitude, so that they are, they're mentally prepared in terms of the language, and also to adapt to the culture of the host country. The other challenge is lack of funding. So therefore, support from the institution is very important. So far, we managed to get good support from UKM Global. And another important thing that students always ask, not just for outbound mobility, but also inbound mobility, is credit transfer. So that's another point that we have to consider, because they spent 2 semesters there, or they're going to spend sometimes more than 2 semesters. So therefore, this is something which is very important to them. And to me, in my opinion, fostering this intercultural competence is very important, and this is a major challenge for internationalization. And we at the center is doing our best to actively promote this through our foreign language courses, not just for UKM students who are going for the students exchanges program, but for students inbound mobility students who come to UKM. And I think it's, to me, the most important, if you have this added advantage of having a foreign language, that will definitely help you develop this intercultural competence. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. UKM is one of the leading universities in Malaysia, so it's always very interesting to get your experience, what you've done. And I think you've summarized it very well. What are the end benefits to the students? As you said for yourself, you came out of your shell, as the other students do. And you showed us that leads to job prospects in another country, or job prospects in this country with foreign national companies that are here. So all these benefits, and at the same time, what are the challenges for the institution, as we heard from Victor as well? What are some of the challenges to make all this happen for the benefit of the students? Thank you very much for that. I'll remind the participants again, if you have any questions, you can type them down. And once we hear from our last presenter today, then we'll get to a discussion and question and answer session. So I'd like to welcome Associate Professor Hiroki Nomoto to give the final presentation of the day before we move on to the discussion. Thank you very much. The fourth of 4 excellent and diverse presentations today. I liked hearing about your stressing the fact that why is there such diversity of languages? Because it's very important to have deeper communication. English between two different parties is not sufficient. And so your institution is working very hard to make sure that people in Japan and elsewhere have a deeper understanding of a variety of languages. So thank you very much. Let's move to the next section of our webinar series today, which is questions and answers. And we have some questions that are posted on the board. I won't take them in the order that they were posted, and I'll try and direct them to who I think might be most appropriate. But if one of you else would like to answer, please, by all means. So I'd like to start off with Dr. Zainab. I look at one Alia Nabila's question here talking about the pandemic. And we know that the global pandemic, it's led to the digitalization of education, even locally or internationally with mobility. We're doing things online. So I want to hear from you, how successful do you think language and culture-based programs are being taught online at the moment? Many of us think that language is very difficult to do online. It's really something face-to-face. And we have one of the comments in the box talking about when they studied Japanese in Japan, they picked it up much better than their friends who only studied it at a Malaysian university. So how do you think we're doing with online education during the pandemic, especially for language and culture?
Thank you, Anwar, for raising that question and sharing questions by the participants. I think, first of all, of course, we all do long for we believe very strongly that, language is social. It must have that face-to-face interaction. And irregardless, we still believe that should be the soul of any language exposure, communication. However, given the situation that we were in, like I said, the onset of almost 18 months of us having to shift from the physical to what we call the virtual platforms. And of course, I think even prior to virtual, all right, we all, turn on videos, we look at performances, we watch things. And I think that's already that elements that help us. But of course, from the programs that we introduced, in fact, initially, everyone felt that, yes, it is different to learn language and culture. So how do you actually connect, as in, if I'm here face-to-face with you, and I can instantly demonstrate or have all the necessary language elements, in the physical space. But I would say as a subject, language and culture, like recently we had something called Forging Traditions. We introduced an online with a Aswara dance company because we wanted the students to know about Zapin and, how else to do it if you can't do it physically. And so we started introducing that, and hey, it was difficult. I was participating in it also and wondering, how can you move into Zapin steps and listen to an instructor? And here I am, and if he goes left, I go right. What are we doing? So anyways, at the end of it, the program, people, had fun. I mean, that was very important. They didn't realize, the problem because, it was just free for you to engage. Yes, in any aspect, even face-to-face, we make mistakes, and mistakes were allowed, irregardless of being judgmental. So I think there were a lot of successes in many of the online programs. And of course, above it all, it cannot replace, right? Like I said earlier, the face-to-face elements of any language learning and so forth. So how do we immerse, for example, the immersion in a language program, like that student was saying, So of course we want to be at that native language environment and get ourselves immersed. there will still be some gaps, but I think programs can go on virtually for language and cultures. And we have had our students taken, for example, Russian language and culture for the first time, and not too bad. They're able to follow and speak Russian as basic as possible. So I think it can be successful, and of course with all those limitations. And above it all, it cannot replace the face-to-face, the actual being immersed in that language and that culture, and so forth.
Thank you. Well, you're doing something right if you said that the participants were having fun as opposed to being frustrated. So it may not replace it and be perfect, but it's going in the right direction from what I can see. All right, I'd like to ask Mr. Victor a question. This is something about the Japanese language, because you've been involved in promoting the Japanese language throughout the world. And the question that many people have is, because the Japanese language is prominent, what is it, or what is special about that, or what is the attractive feature of it that we have many students? I know even at my institution, there are many students that study Japanese. So, what is it that makes people fascinated about the Japanese language around the world?
Okay, it's a very difficult question. Do I have 1 or 2 minutes to think? Okay. I learned Japanese from zero, and then I went through the honeymoon phase, and then breakdown, and then now I'm pretty content in speaking in Japanese. My answer would be because Japanese cultures, again, like language, cultures, and arts, they're like trinity. It's like a set. It's inseparable. And I think Japanese culture is very rich. It's very different. And then they reach a very wide audience. So for example, when it comes to Japanese culture, they have an anime culture. They reach the toddlers, and then elementary schools, and then whatever. And then when it comes to arts, Japanese arts, there's so many, nowadays, so many English that using Japanese vocabulary, such as umami for flavor, art of cuisine, or wabi-sabi, or komorebi. There's so many words coming back and forth, and then it's just it shows that how reach the Japanese languages, and I think that's the reason why Japanese language has a very powerful impact within the language area. I'm sorry, this is not my expertise, but it's just
no, it's okay, because you've got the practical experience in your own experience in studying Japanese, and then the appeal that you get from students that want to study Japanese, your best program and things like that. And you did speak about the strong connection, in fact, cannot be separated, language and culture. And that's another question that we have. And I'd like to direct this one to Associate Professor Fariza, because you also began your presentation saying that they are inseparable. So as language is intertwined with culture, how do they complement each other? And is it necessary for a person to fully know the language to begin to understand the culture of that other country? Your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Mr. Anwar. Yes, that's a very interesting question. Yes, language and culture, it cannot be separated. And the second part where you say, do you really need to know the language in order to understand the culture? I would say yes. You don't have to be proficient in the language in order to know the culture. Let me give myself, for example. I like to watch Turkish movies and series. And I picked up Turkish language, although I'm surrounded by 9 foreign languages at the center. I wish I have the time to actually learn all the foreign languages. I can easily go into the classroom, but I don't have the time. So because I want to know some of these Turkish movies, they don't have the translation in English. So what I did was I actually learned Turkish by watching these movies and these series. And to me, you don't have, as I said, as long as you can pick up, a few phrases that helps you to know, to understand what you are watching, to understand what people are talking. To me, it's good enough. Yeah, that's a starting point. And of course, if you are interested, we are not anthropologists, okay? We just want to learn the language in order to understand the culture. So to me, if you can pick up a few phrases, then that is enough as a starting point for you to learn about the culture.
It's motivating as well when you just pick up a few words and they resonate with someone else. It's very motivating to push you further. I have a supplement to this. It's come on board from Aquilino Clapis, and they're asking about the importance of language and culture in creating a business in another country. So I'll just ask if you can follow up with that, Doctor, or if there's another panelist that wants to address that one, the fact that the importance of understanding a language and a culture by wanting to do business in another country.
Okay, all right, I can answer that a bit. In fact, actually, the research proposal which I submitted to Toshiba International Foundation grant recently is about offering a module, Japanese business communication module to Malaysians who are interested to work in Japanese companies. And I think that's very much related because what is lacking in, for example, in Malaysia, the students, we only teach them the language proficiency, the language in whatever languages, but to work in the, for instance, in a Japanese company, and Japanese, it's very, I would say, complex. The culture is very complex. You have to understand, for instance, how do you greet, the different ranks of people who are working in a Japanese company. So that's a very something which is very important. So therefore, to me, it's not enough just to have that proficiency. Yes, it's very important, but also to go further to understand the business culture. These are two different things, actually, the language and the business culture. Okay. That's my take on it.
And they're both vital if you want to succeed in another place. Okay, another question we have for Associate Professor Hiroki. This deals with being competitive in the global market and bilingualism or multilingualism. Many people see it as being very advantageous. So if you're a student and you graduate with several languages that you're proficient in, it's a benefit for you for the rest of your life. How do we encourage students to learn and take up new languages and cultures? I mean, that's the role of your institution, right? Encouraging people to take on these different languages. So how do we go about encouraging? Because we do know some are self-motivated. Other people, as was mentioned from UKM, students like to stop at the first level because they want to achieve good grades and then they don't want to, pursue it to a greater extent. So if we could hear your thoughts on that. Okay, well, it's good you look at the positive side of it. I mean, I think we all maybe are frustrated at times, but certainly there are many positive things and new opportunities that come out. And this is one, giving students the opportunity to expose themselves to that language. And as you said, if they find that they're not able to communicate completely, it should be a motivating factor for them to pursue it to a greater extent. I have a question from Lilibeth Galvez, and she's asking specifically about AIMS. How can we become a member of AIMS? So perhaps anyone from Malaysia would like to answer that one. In addition, she also asks about what is the process for starting student exchange. So maybe anyone from Malaysia perhaps can handle both of those questions.
If I may share. All right. First of all, I think when it comes to ASEAN International Mobility for students, it's a very structured organization and it has its headquarters in Thailand and under the auspices of Simeo Raihat, and I'm sure they are all by nominations, and so interest can be channeled if you are interested. they can write to the ASEAN International Mobility Headquarters based in Siem Reap in Thailand. And that there are also website and information that's readily available in how for the last 10 years, for example, only 10 universities in Malaysia, because given all the universities that we have, but only 10 universities in Malaysia are part of that network called AIMS. All right. And of course, it's just not any discipline, as you can see from different universities earlier. It's also with regards to the chosen disciplines that the country can offer, and the universities that are, how we say, niche in those particular disciplines or subjects. All right. So that's the first part of AIMS. I would like to also move to that second question. With regards to, how do you go about connecting, or how do you get people to start mobility, right? Yeah, okay. So I would say normally it's always at that people to people, person to person, very personal. If you don't have a big network, if you're just studying, all right, it starts from perhaps someone graduating from that university coming back and already built that so-called partnership, right? The bridge. So I think the key word is that building the bridge. And of course, once the bridge is built, person to person, or it's even better when the university starts to affiliate or align oneself, become alliances. And under that, for example, AIMS, also in Malaysia, we have a strong presence of Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand University Network, IMTGT, Growth Triangle. We also have Asian Technological Universities. So I think how do we send our students is because, one, if it's not person to person, we start small, all right? If not, we are assisted by the networks such as UMAP that's being hosted by country coordinator in UKM, and IMTGT Uninet in UITM as the country coordinator. So I think, and then Asian Technological Universities like ATUNet, ATUNet, headquartered in UTM. So I think the Malaysian universities, many of us affiliate ourselves with those university networks. So under that university networks, so that's where a lot of the agreement, the reciprocal arrangements, and we get to meet everyone. There is a structured annual review of how, exchanges or mobility has taken place, especially under AIMS and so forth. So I think it is best if you're about to start, I would say, go for that person to person, start small if you're not, yeah? And then you move on and you scale up as you become more, as you associate yourself with, more networks in the pipeline. And some networks are free, and some networks do require membership, which again, it depends on the university. If it's, what's in it for the university, if we were to be a member of a network. So there are the issues also that you may want to consider. Yeah, I think that's what I can say, Anwar.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're looking at 4 very mature universities here that have established networks because they've had a long history. But even if you have an established institution with established networks, that personal connection is a great way to begin something new that is outside the network. And usually it grows into something very long-lasting and valuable. We have another comment here asking from Christiane, asking about Duolingo, that they've used Duolingo to study language. And I open this up to anyone if they're familiar with Duolingo. What do they think of maybe these online services that are outside institutions like universities for learning a language? I think your point at the beginning really struck me, because we were talking earlier about how do you motivate people to learn. Here we have one way, people that might be self-starters. There are these platforms available without the need of an institution or another person. But as you said, it can probably only get you so far. And if that's how far you want to go and you're happy with that, great. If you want to really excel at it, you need to go to a different level. Perhaps because we are coming to the end of our time together, perhaps I'd like to give each of you just a moment to say a few final words on what you want to take back about language and culture and internationalization at institutions, especially as it relates between Japan and Malaysia. We can start with you, Dr. Zainab.
Thank you, Anwar. Yeah, I think in a nutshell, I would say, what we have been doing, whether it's physical or virtual, I think, keeping the communication channels wide open, allowing for creative ideas, student-led program, engaging the students to propose to us from their point of view, peer-to-peer. So we're beginning to see more of this rather than it's always top-down, very structured. So I believe my plans, I think, we would like to definitely continue engaging with our partners on the virtual platform, as long as it's still virtual, if not hybrid. We would, so the students, when we allow them to teach English and the Japanese students teaching them Japanese, I think that's the beginning of what we call a social connection, some kind of pen pal that we all use, very familiar to. And then comes the right time for them to see one another, meet one another. And I think they already built that so-called prerequisite, or that, the virtual social platform first, and then eventually they get to see everyone. And we hope with Japan, we'll start engaging with more partners and continue what we have been doing.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Mr. Victor, your closing thoughts.
I think I agree with the other panelists that language and culture require the students to be present, and then communicating face to face. And then we are now experiencing the turbulence of pandemic, and then this kind of connection is just the least thing that we can do to keep our connection with universities in Malaysia, between Malaysia and Japan, and also for the students as well. That's why we also keep our programs online, but then again there's missing chemistry, which is it can only be acquired by the students and the lecturers by being in the same place together in the same classroom, talking face to face, and then see the vibes, so we can get the essence of language and culture. So I keep my hopes high that we will come back to that stage, and then further our development between Japanese universities and Malaysian universities. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Fariza, your parting thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anwar. For me, it's very important to continue the relationship with our partner universities, with Japan, that we have established, and to explore more opportunities for this mobility program, particularly so internationalization and language and culture. And it's rather sad that we are not able to meet physically, and that's the bit that we miss a lot. But students, being the Gen Y, they're very, I would say they're very creative. Although it's online, they always find ways to actually connect with each other, with students from Japan, from other countries. And I had the opportunity to attend one of the events organized by UKM Global, and I was invited to attend the event. Students organized the event, and they had a lot of fun, and I had fun too. So as I said, these students are creative, whether it's physical or online. They always find ways to to build that relationship, but of course all of us here, I know we hope that the situation will go back to normal, because online and physical definitely is not the same. With physical, you can immerse yourself in the language and the culture. I think we remain hopeful that the situation will improve, and as I said, we will continue to explore more opportunities with our university partner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Associate Professor Hiroki, final words? Okay, good. It sounds like panelists have learned and taken a lot back from this, as well as hopefully those students and others that have joined us online for the last 2 hours. It's been very interesting. 2 key words I brought out of the closing are students and fun. It seems like even though things have gone virtual, things are still continuing. We all agree it's not the best case scenario for language, but it certainly hasn't stopped, and maybe it's shifted a little bit. So with that, I'd like to thank you all of you that followed us today. Thank all the panelists for your very interesting, informative, insightful presentations. I enjoyed the time very, very much. And with that, I'd like to pass it back to Encik Hafiz.
Thank you, Chair Anwar. Thank you, Mr. Conlesiano, for that wonderful moderator for these sessions. Of course, thank you to all our panelists, Dr. Haja Zainab, Mr. Victor, Associate Professor Dr. Nur Fariza, and Associate Professor Hiroki Nomoto. Thank you so much for all this valuable, insightful sharing and to support our webinar. Of course, this is our 5th global UKM Global series webinar. Yeah. Okay, we have now, ladies and gentlemen, coming to our to the end of our session. Yeah. So we hope everyone have gained valuable insights from our panelists today. Very, very powerful and inspiring insights as well, shared by them. I personally learned so much from today's sessions. Yeah, yes, culture and language for internationalization. It is so interesting. Yeah. On behalf of the organizer UKM Global, thank you so much to our distinguished and excellent panelists, our warm and engaging moderator, and of course, our honorable participants who made their time to be here, patiently watching from the beginning until the end of this event. A very special thank you to Toshiba International Foundation for supporting this event, and we are very, very grateful for the support for making this event a success. Appreciate it so much. Okay, and not forgetting the international office of our local universities, our partner universities from across Asia, friends and university representatives around the globe, our technical team from the Faculty of Medicine in Kuala Lumpur, and staff of UKM Global, staff of UKM, also students from our partner universities. Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts in UKM Global. Well, before I end, please kindly fill in the feedback form upon leaving the webinar. Once completed, you receive your e-certificate for attending the webinar. That's what I want to remind everyone. Okay. All in all, thank you so much again. Terima kasih. Arigatou gozaimasu. Maraming salamat. Gracias. See all of you guys again in our next webinar. Mata aimasho. See you again and jumpa lagi. Sayonara, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. It's a wonderful to have you guys in this session.